Welcome to TruExact Show. I'm here with Brian, Eric, and Matt, and one of our special guests again. I'm going to call him a regular on the show because you're the second time you've been on here, Nino, so I hope you don't mind if I call you a regular. Friend of the show, I'll say. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
All right, and we're gonna get into some random shit here tonight because on the last episode he was on, we left off with who's gonna win the election, and then Nino said, who's gonna win the election? It's the healthcare system and so on and so forth. So I said, let's have him on again and talk about this. So first, Nino, I just want to ask you about the COVID stuff going on right now. How do you feel about the media pandering and stuff like that? Because I know that you're like Illuminati rejects and stuff, and I know you're not one of these conspiracy nuts because we have like conversations about that, but you are more like woke and aware than people would like come on and think. So explain how you think the divide and conquer thing is working in this country, what you think the main force is and stuff like that.
I don't think there's really, I don't know how much of an agenda is in the early stages. I usually think of these things like, I think like it's one of these things where people try to take advantage of any type of
situation,
tragedy that they could. So it's like, we all of us here, we tend to see like events play out and we go, oh shit, that means that these people did this and this, and because these people profited, that means that this was done. And I tend to just think, nah, people who profit.
You're breaking up, Nino.
Yeah, he froze.
Oh, no.
Out.
I was going to say, at least his audio was going for low.
Yeah.
Illuminati got him.
You good?
I cut out right in the middle of when I was going to
I know. Let's start over. So what do you think about this whole COVID thing going on? No, we're not starting over. No editing. Go on, Nino.
Raw and uncut. Get them.
What I was saying was, I think all of us here, we tend to see like events play out, and then we see people who profit off something or people who take advantage, or whatever thing happened. And we go, that means that this happened because of this, and they had their hands in it the whole time. And I don't tend to think that people who profit or take advantage of whatever opportunity they can, I don't think that necessarily connects dots as these people had all from the get-go. It's like there was a quote, I forgot who it was, of some capitalistic guy who was involved with the military like 60, 70 years ago. You guys can Google it. And the guy says, it's an opportunity to capitalize off a good tragedy. That's what he said. Like we can never miss that opportunity.
Oh, so I think that was Kissinger, right?
Yeah, there you go. Kissinger probably said it. There you go.
See, Nino, that's why I got Matt on here. When he reads this stuff.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I tend to think a lot of that shit is that more than it is some premeditated outcome. I think it's guys just responding and going, yo, how can we make like a couple billion off this thing? Yo, can we? Hey, do you think we could do this? And I think it's more of that. And, it is what it is, man. Like, I think this thing snuck up on people. I think it's the first time in our lifetimes we've ever seen like elected officials, whatever the fuck that means. But we've ever seen elected officials kind of look around and in press conferences and not know what to say. Like they're like mid press conference, kind of just like, no, oh, my bad. What? Oh, no, actually, you can get it that way. I did it. Sorry, they just corrected me. That's to see people in all types of languages, like halfway through an interview, being told no by the person behind them and shit. And I thought that was pretty fascinating. But I think we live in times where shit like this we weren't prepared for. I don't think there was a system in place for it. I think there's holes in the systems, and I think there's holes in a lot of different media outlets. It shows a lot of the faults in the system more than it shows, like, I don't think it's as much about COVID as much as it's how these entities all respond to this shit, whether the healthcare shit, whether governments and all that, all these conglomerates, we all think kind of like work together and like in a symphony, and we kind of staring at it and we're like, their instruments are not as in sync as we thought they were. And I think that to be the more grounded response I have of, without me talking to you about some bullshit I read. You know what I mean? Like, it seems to me like the fucking instruments that we all thought were in sync were not as in sync as they were. And it's like it's almost like a little bit of a punch to the gut. That's like, damn, this shit ain't as well thought out as we thought they was. Because anybody who thinks this was completely premeditated and planned, if it is the worst fucking plan of all fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
Worst possible execution I've ever fucking seen. It's like there's no new world order that's smart and intellectual, has this grand scheme of a plan that can do it this bad. Like this is as bad as something, but I think the response has been what we've seen, a bunch of confusion, and it is what it is. We all don't know what the fuck's going on. No one here knows what the fuck COVID is. Real quick, before we finish this shit, no one here knows this shit. So, like, we all gonna sit here and talk like we know what the fuck we're talking about. No one here knows what virus is, doesn't really understand a virus, doesn't understand how microscopic it is, has never tested it. None of you fucking know shit. I don't know shit. We're all sitting here just kind of just like, I think, blah, blah, stupid. You know, like, we all think we're fucking smart, and everybody here, we all might have this shit. We don't know what the fuck we're talking about. So
now, like what you mentioned, though, the response is always where it gets to be annoying, because I do believe people are taking advantage of it. I don't think anyone maliciously wants people to die. That's just my take. But I do feel, now you may think different, if it means that 30,000 people have to get sick or perish, but it means, let's say, Trump's out of office, it wouldn't shock me if some Democrats would trade that. That's just, I've gotten to that point in life where I don't trust any of them. And like, I used to be more like, I don't believe in any of this stuff. But the older I get, and just seeing the media just on both sides, the media on both sides, it's just fucking exhausting.
Yo, but dude, it doesn't have to be COVID. It could be a fucking Yankee game. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever happens, like if a fucking basketball game, God forbid, got shot up, they turn that on Trump. You know what I mean? Like it, like the whole left, right side of the spectrum, they're all out of whack. So whatever they can do to get the guy out, it is what it is. Like if COVID is the thing to get what they, but I'm not even gonna counter that. I'm gonna add on to that.
Okay.
My view is they're all on the same team. I don't. It's a fucking joke. I don't think they're against each other. I think that's all for the media. I think they're clicking glasses at the end of the day, and it's all about getting whatever check and so on and so forth. I don't think there's any left-right real divide here. That's all for us. That's a show, bro. I don't think it's that real.
Now, do you think, though, that's part of the reason why, I know you say they're on both teams, but Trump was kind of, I want to say Jim Norton's the one who said this on Jim and Sam. He was kind of the guy banging the cymbals while they were doing the show, and like he was fucking everything up, and that's why they're that's why they're a little more aggressive to get him out. So like I do think him not being a part of that for 30 years, it's almost like I'd hate to say this, who knows the backlash. I almost trust him more because he's an asshole up front, and I'm okay with that. You know?
Oh, no. I said that off rip. I prefer his methodology over Obama's. Obama's going to never answer questions. He's going to sit around and be like, we're fine, America's great. Trump's is going to be like, you know, he's going to say the truth. You know what I mean? He's say, well, his truth. It may not be the truth, but it's his truth. And he will fucking lie to your face and then tell you 5 minutes later he just lied to your face. I'm okay with that. But yeah, definitely there's a little bit of he messes up the rhythm. Yeah, definitely. Like he's the ship is steering a certain way, and you know, he kind of messes up with a little bit of the robotic aspect of it. Yeah, I believe that. There's an automated, you got to understand everything's automated, even politics. There's a sense of like, we all sitting here focusing on the people that interchangeable pieces every 4 to 8 years. What about the bureaucrats that never move after 24, 25 years? They're in place. So it's like, there's still an automated thing in place where this shit's business as usual. These 4 to 8 year interchangeable pieces, that's just for us. You know what I mean? Like everybody, when we hold elected officials or whatever you want to call them, when we hold them to a standard, it's never a standard we create. They're the ones that tell us they're going to fix the economy. They're the ones that say they're going to help with health. They're the ones that say everything. So we hold them to that shit. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. But I think deep down, it's not about these people that we focus on. There's bureaucrats in place. And I mean, I'm not making this up. A guy named Henry Donovan, I believe, wrote a great book on this. I read a book called Double Government about this. If you guys want to Google Double Government, Lawrence Lessig, professor of Harvard University, he just wrote a book called Lost Republic. I watch a lecture online. He talks for 2 hours, and he talks about the real political figures in power. None of them are like, none of them.
Really?
Yeah, he's a professor at Harvard, not idiots like any of us here. He's a real deal guy. You know what I mean? Like,
you literally are like, you changed my whole mindset to where I hate everything now since I've talked to you last time. I question everything and I hate you for it. So me and Brian have this conversation. It's like when someone now gets plays and we look at views, we're like, oh, well, remember when Nino said he bought them? Yeah, that motherfucker probably bought those views. So you completely like ruined the industry standard for us, and now you're doing it with politics. But seriously, no, that's fine.
No, that's just for you.
Oh, shut up, Brian.
You've had availability fucking head the whole time. I've been saying this shit for years, and you just tell me I'm crazy.
Yeah, no, I have relaxed a little though, man. Like even like I try not to get as mad anymore. And you know what? I don't play the music. I was bashing last time. I set my own playlist on YouTube so this stuff doesn't pop up. So I have taken your advice, and I do appreciate it, man.
Good.
I do appreciate your advice. At the
Are
same
you one of those guys that think you could fix the world by voting? You're not one of those, right?
No, I'm one of those guys who is voting for Trump because I love that he pisses people off. That's who I am. I'm one of those guys.
I don't think that's healthy either, but keep going.
Now let me ask you a question. Do you think in voting in your local shit will fix it more than voting national, or you think the whole thing's rigged? Like your own town, all that shit.
I think that's relative because certain entities have a stranglehold on certain local, you know what I'm saying, local aspects of and certain things and districts and shit like that. Like in certain places in Florida, yeah, your vote might work, but in certain places, like that shit's run by a medical company that bought out every hospital there. It's owned by contracting companies. It's owned by real estate companies. Like, and all they're gonna do is just do whatever the fucking whoever wants to build 30 Walgreens. They can't do shit. You know what I mean? People are going to lose their, you know, whatever little diner that they liked. You know, if they like the regular coffee spot, that shit is gone if the real estate companies want to open up business. So I just think it depends on what state. I've traveled the country enough to know that it doesn't work the same as Montana as it does in Texas. Same way in West Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, New York, Jersey, so on and so forth. I'm in California now. I've been in Arizona, New Mexico, where some of the local stuff plays a bigger role. But then I've also lived in Florida. I have family in North Carolina, and I know that, you know, in certain places the church runs shop. So it doesn't matter what officials in there. It's all about the church to this day. So Utah, it's a Mormon state, and up until like 8 years ago, like unless you were catering to the Mormons, it fucking matter who was coming in there. There was no local shit that can be done. So I think it's relative and it depends. That's the shit about this country. When you travel around Europe, you could drive from one. I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna speak on anyone's experiences here if you've never done it. But you can literally drive 6 hours and get through like 3 or 4 countries and major countries that we watch in the fucking World Cup. And we're like, oh, this is Switzerland. This is Sweden. Oh, shit. Like all these fucking countries. And it's literally a drive you can make from Massachusetts to Virginia. And you're like, what the fuck? So the U.S. is so big and it's so different on every level. And we have multiple subcultures in our own shit. So Mass is nothing like fucking Florida. Florida is nothing like fucking Louisiana and so on and so forth. So I think it depends what you're voting on and where it is. That's just to what it is.
I see Eric shaking his head over there. Eric, you want to comment?
I agree because like you know, I visited all 50 states. Not a big deal. It's whatever. I traveled for. Moved out to Portland, whatever. But like every state, every city, every town you go to, it's a completely different mindset. So it's like, so that's why like I'm more into nowadays after seeing all that, I'm more into states' rights. But that is attached, that phrase is attached to kind of like the old Civil War days where it's like the South was like, we want slaves, you know what I mean? So that was their state right. So it's kind of a little wishy-washy, but back when you were saying you could drive across all these countries, if you put the map of America over Europe, we are from like London all the way to like Eastern Europe, like almost Russia. Like it really is crazy. So for to say that all of Europe needs to think the same way, we need 10-round magazines and guns. We need, you know, you're going to tell some guy in Montana who's like, I've got 1,000 acres on my farm and people come in and try to steal my goats, right? And he's got an AR-15. He's like, not on my property. How are you going to, how does that guy have anything similar with an investment banker in New York City who's in a penthouse? You know what I mean? So like there needs to be separations, but like when, you know, like traveling all over like New York, LA, a lot of these cities are like, this is how I think. and this is how it should be. Like one of the worst, I was thinking about this the other day, one of the worst phrases that I hate to hear is progressive. The word progressive in itself is like, what's progressive to you might not be progressive to me, right? Progressive to somebody might be like, I think we should get rid of all, I know a guy from Virginia, there should be no gun laws at all. If you're a felon, you could be a crazy person, you should be able to get a gun. It is your right to have a gun. The same thing, like if you commit a crime in front of a bunch of people, you kill everybody, you still have a right to trial, all that stuff. It's like, these are rights that you always get. But then when I was in Portland, I met people that are like, melt them all down, not even cops should have guns. So it's like, that is progressive and that is progressive. So it's interesting, and it's like,
see, Nino, this is why I surround myself with smarter people, you say?
No. I didn't mean to cut him off, and he's right. And also, like, progressive, again, that's also, you got to judge that on a curve, too. Because a lot of these fucking people think that they just, oh, I'm down with the fucking weed movement. I'm progressive. And it's like, that's not fucking progressive. People been fucking thinking weed was cool, you idiot.
Yeah. Progressive in 1950.
Yeah.
I'm progressive. I now view marijuana as medicinal. And it's like, it's not progressive, you dummy. There's studies that show that since the 50s. Like, what are you talking about? So it's like, a lot of these people wait, like, it's like when people do yoga now. You know, when I was in Florida, like, people
Bro, did you know all about this?
Yeah.
And they think it's some new shit. And it's like, nah, bitch, that shit been around for millennia, bro. You know, so like, these seem like progressive ideas to an uptight Christian state. You know what I mean? That was influenced by, you know, Puritans, like all this shit. And it's like, well, this is very progressive because of this and that. And you could say we have progressive outlooks toward things that favor economical value or things that favor technological boosts. But where's the progressive things towards fucking anything moral? Where are the ethics? What do we teach people? I know lawyers who get fired because they don't want to put people that they found evidence that they don't want to use, and they get fired from the DA and shit like that. Personal friends name their first and last name. So where's the progressive towards our actual wisdom? It's a great book written by Dr. Christopher Ryan called Civilized to Death. It touches on these things. So it's like, I also think, like, when I hear people, like, I like that you said that. But also beyond that, it's like some of these progressive ideas ain't fucking progressive. It's like, bitch, what are you talking about? Like, everyone was taking LSD in the Woodstock. You're not, the whole country thought this was cool. You are now, your dumbass in a suit and your civil servant who now all of a sudden woke up to this, think you're progressive. These aren't forward-thinking ideas. These ideas it took you 60 years to catch up. You're not progressive, fucking late.
Yeah,
well,
and
Eric moved out to Oregon, and since he was from New Jersey, he was immediately like labeled a fucking like gun-toting like racist without even like getting to know him. It was crazy.
No. That's how Eric presented himself.
I was just like, hey, I hate that. No, I was just kidding. But no, Oregon was like a very weird area, right? Because the whole state is very red. So like everybody's all about AR-15s and this and that. And then you go in the city and they're like shutting down bridges, shutting down roads, saying Trump is president. We need to melt down guns. And it's like, if you go literally you could walk to the next town and they've got AR-15s on their porch and they're dipping, making their own fucking moonshine. And then you go into the city and it's like a hipster that's like, I just hate Starbucks. You know, like, it's just crazy. Like, this whole country, the whole country is just wild. But what was I going to say? Oh, I forgot what it was. We were somewhere else.
Nino, you blacked out again. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Right.
Hopefully you guys got me back again.
Yeah,
I heard everything he said. I heard everything he said.
Good.
That's fun. The other thing, like, about that, like, it was really like, because I only had like a couple handguns. So like I was telling Brown the other day, like, I went with my uncle to get a handgun because like he came over, I showed him like gun safety and all this type of stuff. So for me to get a firearm in Jersey, right, I had to call up the police station, set up an appointment with a police officer, and this was January, right? He's like, oh, my next appointment, just so you know, it's only Wednesdays between 12 and 1. My next open appointment is somewhere around May. I'm like, all right. So I waited until May, met with this guy. I'm like, so do you have to ask me questions? He's like, no, just here's a paper. That's it. Fill out the paper. We'll call you. I sat around for months and months and months. I had to call the Second Amendment Society. They said, all right, we'll call up the police station. I called the police station. Hey, I'm not trying to be that like weird, crazy guy. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is my right. What are you doing? And then the next day, I said I was in contact with the Second Amendment Society. I got a call the next day. Hey, we have it right here. Weird. Here it is. And then I go to the store. I say, this is the gun that I wanted. And in Jersey, you only have 30 days to get the gun that you want. If you want 3 of them, you have 90 days. It's like all this bullshit. So I had to get a gun that I didn't even really want. So I got that gun. And then you have all these, like, you can only have over 10 rounds now. In other states, you could have 30. Like, it's crazy. I go to, my brother-in-law lives down the street from me. If we want to go to the gun range together, by law, I could be a felon. I could be thrown in prison for years, never vote again. If I picked him up, he's 2 blocks away. If I picked him up on my way to the gun range, that's it. If I went and stopped at Dunkin' Donuts to get a coffee, that's deviating from route to the range. That is how it is in New Jersey, right? Is there gun violence in New Jersey? Yes, there is, right? When I was in Oregon, I met a bunch of friends. We're like, oh, we're going to go like go-kart racing. I'm like, okay. There's a sign up front that said, keep your gun, no guns allowed. They go, shit, all right. And everybody in the car had guns on them, and I didn't even know. And I wasn't like, I'm with a bunch of psychopaths. That's just like how it is, you know what I mean? So I think it's more of a mentality. Like we grew up thinking, like you're from Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
So you can't really carry guns there legally. So you know, like you have it in your head, and we're from Jersey. If this guy's got a gun on him, he's a bad dude. Like he's got that for a reason, right?
Yeah.
40 states, this dude's got a gun. It's like having a wallet. Like it's a part like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that it's like a mentality type of thing. You know what I mean? So it's like just seeing how everybody, like I've been to a state, they're like, he's got a gun? Oh my God, is he crazy? And other places, like he's got a gun? Yeah, obviously he does. So it's just, it really is just like the mentality.
Yeah, I mean, that guns is one issue. People think differently. Again, like depending on what state and the history of that state, people think differently about healthcare, about socialism, about capitalism, and so on and so forth. Like you see a lot of that shit. The thing with gun that trips me out is I remember reading some statistics and like we're so hell bent on stopping the automatic and the semi. Well, first of all, no shootings happen with automatic weapons. You barely see anybody getting shot with Uzis and nothing. But So, but I see.
I'm pretty sure you and Eric just became best friends, by the way. But go on.
But the semi, even the semi-automatic argument. Like most, if you want to stop gun violence, here's the funny thing: the mass shootings just clouds this shit because there's this thing with data. I don't know if you guys know about psychometrics, but there's something called nomothetic data, which caters to like a general outcome or general view of people. So it's like, okay, these 10,000 people, this is what happens with these 10,000 people. And then there's idiographic data, which is like more individual based things. And if you dig into the data of gun violence, I know we're not turning this into a gun thing. He was just talking about more about cultural of understanding and your whereabouts and shit and how you understand things and how you function. I get that. But even the gun violence thing, just to tap into that, which, you could somehow juxtapose this with how people respond to the healthcare shit and voting and so on and so forth. Most gun for all of us to get caught up in a gun violence incident, alcohol is the main one. Like that's the weirdest thing, and all of us here, you want to avoid getting shot. Don't hang out with a family member while you're drinking, because most shootings happen by fucking family members with alcohol. And 96, I think this is the numbers. 96 to 97% of the shootings happen with handguns, or 98, I think. It's so if we really want to stop gun violence, we're so hell bent on stopping these big guns. Look at these big guns. Look at what these big guns do. You want to stop gun violence? Get rid of all the fucking handguns. That's how everybody's shooting each other. Then you really want to stop gun violence? Get rid of all the alcohol. Then you really want to stop gun violence? Move everybody's fucking family away from each other, because those are the people who shoot each other. We're all likely to get shot by somebody we know unless we're all doing some rugged shit. So it's like people kind of essentially obsess over these things and what allows them to be governed. They're governed by ideas and narratives that aren't even true. The idea that all of us here we're in danger to something because it's big and it makes loud noises, and there's this whack job who can just walk around and all and so on and so forth. It's like, yeah, that's a realistic possibility, but bro, a fucking plane can land on every one of our houses tonight. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that much of a precedence, but it's like, do we really need to sit here and be hell bent on all these anomalies? Like, these things are anomalies. They're not normal. You know what I mean?
How did you? Sorry, Kron, go on.
No, I was gonna say, it plays into the media. Like they don't report on a backyard shooting of 2 people. They report on the shit.
Yeah.
what it is.
Even
It's
kidnapping.
what gets ratings. It's what gets clicks.
Yeah, kidnappings too. It's like I don't know the number off the top of my head.
It's like 99%.
99% is like a family member, right?
Yeah.
Like a family member takes a child and runs away. But you would think like, okay, you're gonna go to the store. Call mommy when you get there. There's someone
yeah.
steal you. Like,
We were the generation of don't talk to strangers.
yeah, like
don't talk. Yeah, you're fucking. Yeah,
you're.
they're gonna get kicked. Yeah, we have the idea that like they showed this guy he did like this guy named Daniel Gilbert wrote a great book called Stumbling Upon Happiness.
How much
I don't know what
read, Nino?
evidently more than you ever have.
Yeah, holy shit! I read all the Harry Potter books. That's about
I read for fun. I don't read for like.
That's why Scott's in this magic world. He's like, oh,
yeah, that's no wonder why you hate everything.
Yeah.
So fucking so he shows a picture. He does a lecture online on YouTube, and he shows a picture of a burning fucking building. He shows picture of a fucking little girl getting abducted, and he shows a picture of like a big gun going off, and then or like a GIF, whatever you guys want to call it. And then he shows a pool, and he's like, "What is the biggest threat here?" And everybody says everything but the pool. But the pool's like 5 times. Yeah. And it's a beautiful pool. It's not like some, nasty looking pool. It's like a beautiful fucking pool. And it's like we don't look at everything that's immediate. First of all, it's human instinct, right? Like our neurophysiology is wired to be a little bit more fearful of the things that can get us instantly. Alligators, fuck. Kidnappers, fuck. This. Like all these things can get us quicker, but nobody here fears obesity. Nobody here fears diabetes. Nobody here fears fucking heart disease. Like if those things had like a fucking Muslim last name, like, the fucking media.
Alligator Shalom.
Dude, the diabetes Mohammed, you gotta be careful of the Mahmoud Abdul fucking heart disease, Like,
don't name them French fries, name them Saudi Arabia fries.
Exactly.
Dave Chappelle said that in Dave Chappelle's stand-up. He goes, "You know what kills the most black people?" He goes, "Table salt, regular ass table salt." It really is fucking crazy.
We don't hold that thought, but that's what I was gonna say is we don't associate danger with things that take a long time to kill us. We can deal with those things, and we also laugh at other people who view those things as threats. We're like, "Oh, you're worried about that thing that's gonna give you cancer 30 years from now? Live your fucking life." And then as soon as the motherfucker got cancer, everyone's crying, "Dad, why did you drink? Fuck, you should have never smoked. God damn it!" And we live in that reality of everything's cool as long as it's cool. Like that's the reality we live in. And then as soon as we see things immediate, we get caught. And the media, they know how to capture your attention, bro. I was with my dad. He was in the hospital. My dad passed in September, right? So about a year ago, he always watches the fuck. I don't watch the news. I don't watch it. But they're like, a prominent senator, passed away. Find out who at 7 p.m. or whatever the fuck. And I'm like, what the fuck you can't say now? Like, what kind of bullshit is that? And to touch on the media thing, Walter Cronkite, right? In the 60s, was delivering information to people. He was an actual journalist. People forget that. Like, this is the guy who, and that's the way it is, was giving all the information to Americans in the 60s. He had a fucking earpiece delivering information. And one time, some actual journalists, because the thing in the media in the 60s and 70s, these people actually had journalistic integrity. They valued their sources. They valued how to get it. They worked their way up. They did the beat. They worked the streets. They followed cops around. They knew the people who got shot, the innocents. They followed all of that other stuff. And then by the time they got on television, they had some journalistic, they had a reputation to maintain. They were like, I'm not, they didn't skip Bayless their life away. They were like, I have some journalistic credibility. I want to live. But nowadays, you see these people on these news, they have no journalistic credibility. They're just people with opinions, shooting the shit. They have a bullshit bachelor's degree on fucking political science, and they're sitting around going, "I think," but you know what I think, and that
was actually. Sorry, I'm gonna cut you off. You still?
No, I was gonna say one thing. Their opinions are content now. It's fucking weird. But the cool thing about Walter Cronkite, two things I'll touch on. Before that, I forgot what the law was called. The Senate. There was only so much bandwidth in the frequencies or whatever that they could allow the outlets to allow their space for the news. So when they wanted to tell the news, the Senate, I forgot what it was called, they signed it and said, that's cool, but you need to use whatever, 15, 20% of this for public goods, meaning information, education. You need to deliver information that helps us as a country, as people, in the education space, in the awareness space, in health space. You need to do that for that. That shit was violated, you know, many more years now. Like, no, there's no fucking good in that. Walter Cronkite in the 60s was told by a journalist who was over there going, bro, you're misreporting a lot of shit. You know what Walter Cronkite did? This is fucking crazy. He went to Vietnam. He got up the fucking news chair, went to Vietnam, going to Wikipedia, went over there, saw what was really happened, did some digging, came back however months later, and turned on the war and started delivering the news in a way where it was against Vietnam. And at the time, I think it was President Johnson, he said, if we lost Walter Cronkite, we lost the war.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Do you know that quote? You know that
That's
quote?
exactly what I was going to say. If you didn't say that, that's exactly what I was going to say.
See, Nino, I bring on the right guest for you.
Yeah, Cronin's the quote guy. Cronin's like, yep.
That was like a major thing. It was That's why Johnson didn't run for re-election. He said, I lost Cronkite, I lost Middle America. That's why he didn't run. That's why Nixon got elected.
Yeah.
He didn't run. He didn't run specifically because Walter Cronkite went and delivered actual information to us as people, which Senate, which was answerable to us, and we vote these fucking geeks in there, and we're like, yo, do some fucking governing while we're trying to figure out fucking life out. And like now it's like, I want to be a politician to be a billionaire. Like, bro, no billionaires were trying to get into politics in the 60s or 70s. And if they were, it was just to fuck somebody. Like, nobody was really trying to that wasn't a job. That wasn't a plug. But how, you know, nowadays a guy can come in there and make $1 billion, like Obama's like made a few $100 million off being president. Like there's a lot more gaps in that shit. You know what I mean? Than there is. And I just want to
you were around the hip hop community like during the Obama like 2008. Like you were with Slaughterhouse making the songs. How was the reaction throughout the hip hop community when he was coming into office? And were you aware about this then? Like, did you think like this back then?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I got called a racist on Twitter.
Right,
I got called a racist on Twitter.
I'm gonna ask you that. Yeah, were you like kind of shunned a little bit for speaking your mind, or were you just like I don't want to say blackball, but like did you just like get looked at like this fucking idiot while you were around?
Oh yeah, definitely, bro. People were crying. People were acting like they won the fucking when the Red Sox won.
But which is fine, though. I could understand, man. Like, honestly, if you're a black man in this country and you see a black guy at that power, listen, I can't relate to being black in this country, but, like, I could understand maybe a little bit why you would want to see that. I really could. So I didn't have a problem with, like, the black guys going out and voting for him just because of it. I get it. But you, as you're Spanish, I'm taking? Yeah.
Puerto Rican, yeah.
Puerto Rican, yeah. So, like, you were around the hip-hop community. Did you feel like you couldn't be that outspoken about it, or you know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, in my community, at least in New York, we're viewed as we're right there with the blacks. So it's everything was right there, and we have black in us. You know, we're Tainos, we're African, we're mixed in with the colonized Spaniards that came in, amongst other shit, right? So like we come from all different shit. Felix Trinidad is as Puerto Rican as I am. He just happens to come from the very dark side. I got more of the shade from my mom. My mom's from a town called Carolina. She's a little bit more light skinned and so on and so forth. But my dad's dark, you know what I mean? And most of my family is that in that sense. But like the brothers understood what it was from where I was at. Like all my brothers knew what it was, whether they were Latino, black, or whatever. But honestly, it was mixed, bro. Half of the people were crying. They were acting like they won something. Because I think people have the idea that if like a Puerto Rican president came in, I don't think he's going to do shit for Puerto Ricans. Maybe that's just me. I don't think just because you're Puerto Rican means you're going to be, you know, giving us healthcare, like helping us out, helping the man in. And it's like, no, he's still going into the White House. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is.
But wouldn't you agree it's a facade at least? Like now, listen, up until 2008, if you were a black kid in elementary school and you said, I could be president, you kind of were like, no, you can't. But at least now you have that image, like a kid could maybe say, I could succeed to do this. So don't you think it was good in that sense?
Well, why would anyone want that job?
I'm just saying.
No, I think all it did was contribute to like an idea that that's something meaningful and you can cause change and you could do something. Look, bro, Obama ran a whole he ran a whole campaign about, you know, doing things and change and progress. And then got all these JP Morgan guys in there and fucking bailed out these dudes. And he was all about the fucking big banks and big Wall Street and big, bro, he got rid of habeas corpus. You know what I mean? In one sense, he signed something called the Smith-Monk Act, which was, check this out, post-World War II, if you guys research this, the Smith-Monk Act was, after World War II, people, Congress or whatever was like, yo, it's not good for countries to legally propagandize their citizens. It's just not cool. Well, fucking Congress put that in, and we have the Smith-Monk Act where you can't legally propagandize people. Fucking Obama repealed that shit and got rid of that. He was easily as bad as fucking either Bush's. He had us in more wars than Junior. You know what I mean? He just wasn't as, he can talk his way out of
talk.
Shit.
Listen, he was a class act. He was a class act. And, like, I had no problem with him as far as, like, a class act. But, like you said, it's hard to, like, talk about him in a bad light, especially as a white dude, because you do get labeled as fucking racist.
But,
I got shit on at the time.
Thing, they never brought forward anything that he did that wasn't, good. Because the guy is an extremely compelling speaker.
Absolutely.
Right. He's captivating.
Phenomenal.
That's the thing.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. But the question you're trying to ask is that, because it seems two-part. Are you trying to say if I got shit for it, and do I think it actually can? I got a little bit of shit for it, but at the same time, it was mainly from like the people I knew who were just like, yo, this is a good look though, man. This thing could change anything, because they just thought, oh, there's going to be a black guy in there. He's gonna completely look out for us. He's from Chicago. He likes Common. He likes Jay-Z.
Yeah,
it's Common.
And by the way, I'm just throwing this out there. I'd beat him one-on-one in a basketball game. I'm saying that right now, by the way. I'm saying that right now. I
don't know. He's taller than you.
Obama, if you ever see this one-on-one, let's do it.
Yeah. I think you versus Michelle is better.
Absolutely not. Nino, I'm a white guy. The three-point line's been keeping us in the NBA for 25 years. Are you kidding me?
You want to talk about a facade? That's a facade. If you look up the greatest three-point shooters of all time, they're all fucking black.
Ray Allen owns
You're right, but half the white guys wouldn't be in the NBA if they couldn't shoot threes.
That's true. Yeah,
that is fucking true.
That's unfortunate. That's due to a lot of the lack of the physical aspect of it.
There's none. Absolutely. Athleticism itself, there's nothing I can do about it.
Because there's a lot of black guys that are in the league just because they can hit threes.
Yeah, and they could dunk on me, No,
but like we focus on the white guys. Like what was that guy that played on the Knicks? Novak.
Oh,
Guy Novak. Yeah. But we don't think about like fucking Sam Perkins played an extra 4 years because he could hit threes. You know what I mean? Like we don't think about those what was Steph's dad, Del Curry?
Yeah,
he was a white guy, dude. That's all he did. All he could do is shoot threes.
I got to throw out my guy Jimmer Fredette too, who didn't get his equal share in the NBA.
He got his equal share.
No,
he wasn't good.
We don't talk bad about Jimmer on here. I love Jimmer.
We're talking about Shanghai Jimmer.
Nino, so when you were out there though, like I'm glad you spoke your mind though, because a lot of people wouldn't have in your. Oh no, sorry. What I was gonna go into. All right, so I agree with you on the Obama factor and everything government. See, I get knocked because I truly think they're all the same. I think that Trump is essentially like he's a version of them that they are behind closed doors. You got what I'm saying? So, like, I think behind closed doors, they're all exactly like him. They're all making back deals. But for some reason, the facade for people is just like, I want to see someone act more presidential. What does it matter if they're being pieces of shit behind your back?
Yeah, that's so true. I read a book one time. I forgot what book. It might have been Double Government. And he talks about, like, since the TV became a thing, like, we started watching presidents on TV, no president was bald. Like Eisenhower was the last bald president we had. Well, at least,
bald. I saw this thing. They said, what was it? Was it JFK versus was it Nixon?
Nixon.
They were going back and forth. It was the way
he won on TV.
It was the way that the suits looked. It was the colorization of the suits that.
And JFK wore makeup. Nixon didn't. JFK Nixon looked pale, and they thought he was
And even
guys
George Bush Sr., he got screwed.
He checked his time at the debate.
He kept looking at his watch.
I know that one.
Yeah, but
and
you
he
guys
puked on the Japanese prime minister.
You guys missed a really big point of Nixon and Kennedy. I'm surprised no one mentioned it. Kennedy lost on the radio, and then 5 days later won on television.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Shit.
Yeah, no, I did hear that.
He lost on that was the first public debate on TV, but it wasn't publicized live. So the live version was on the radio because everything was live on the radio, and Kennedy lost. He got fucking his ass kicked. But then on television, everybody's like, what the fuck? Oh no, I like Kennedy now. What the hell is that bullshit? That
I will say your history.
Scott, give him his own podcast.
Yeah, your history knowledge is amazing. My dad watches all these, and he's gonna love your fucking knowledge of history. Honestly, how did you get into it though? Like, when did you just what age or what happened where you were like, I'm just gonna start to look into this shit a little more? Was there sixth grade, I had a gay teacher. His name was Mr. Volpe. He was super gay. And he gave me, I only mentioned how gay he was because I was scared to talk to him after class. Because, like, you know, you grew up in New York, you know, speaking of progressive, right? But, like, you know, in New York, too, yeah. And in Brooklyn, it's kind of just like, you know, hey, don't stay after class with him. We thought gay people all, like, touch kids. Like, we were idiots. No. We didn't fucking know.
They were all priests.
So, like, he's gay. Yeah, exactly. So he wanted to talk to me after class a couple of times, and I was like, yeah, we'll talk after class. And I just kept running for the fucking hills. And then eventually one time he just fucking stopped me and was like, you know, he's like, yeah, I want to talk to you about a few things. And then he told me that, like, I was, he just kind of liked, like, the questions I asked and so on and so forth. And if my brain's going elsewhere, that he recommends a few books for me. And I swear to you, he gave me 1984. And when he gave me 1984,
George Orwell.
Yeah,
I have that book.
He put me onto Orwell, and he put me onto a few other things talking about Eastern philosophy, like Taoism and shit, and just other concepts. And we talked about, like, I don't know, systems and stuff like that, because we were covering, I guess, one of the wars. And I was just like, he was one of the first people that I ever heard tell me that the Nazis weren't really socialists, you know? And he was like, well, they weren't really socialists. He was trying to explain that. But then, like, 4 years later, I was like 16 or whatever. And then I had a high school teacher going, no, they were
Right.
We have, like, this poor idea of, like, for example, right now, North Korea, you guys can research it. I think they're the People's Democratic Republic of North Korea, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
right?
Yeah, what are they? What's the actual term? The People's Republic Democrat or whatever? The People's Democracy
Democratic
Republic.
People's Republic of Korea.
Yeah, the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea. But no one here would ever think that there are any of those fucking elements in their fucking political infrastructure. We all look at that as a hereditary, I guess that's the word, dictatorship, I guess. And we don't be like, no, that's some fucking goofball that runs the country because granddad or daddy did whatever he did. And I guess, like, that was one of the things where I had, like, a sixth grade teacher who was kind of like, no, they weren't really, just because you call yourself something doesn't mean you get to be that. Like, with the Bolsheviks, we have this idea that the Russian Revolution was all, Lenin was a Marxist, where, like, these credible Marxists like Rosa Luxemburg and so on and so forth are like, fuck Lenin, he's not a real Marxist. He doesn't really understand Marxism. Although Marxism itself, you got to judge that on a curve. He changed a little towards the end as he did in the beginning. And as you guys can see, this got me into it because I was like, how come two guys could have an education, both be teaching this shit and have completely different views on this? And that, as a 16-year-old, just made me go to a place where I was like, well, let me be a little bit more self-taught and autodidactic and get into this a little bit more. And you know, I've been reading ever since.
Yeah, that's the way you got to do it. I mean, that's how it's supposed to spark.
I got to get back. Sorry, I had to disappear. I have to get back to your gay teacher. Were you actually upset that he wasn't hitting on you? Because in a way, it's like if you were the guy at the club and you weren't hit on by the gay guy, isn't that offensive? Like, to me, it would be. I'd be like, what's wrong with me?
No,
It's always Sunny did an episode on that.
Yeah. I don't watch that show.
I want to play with the joke, but honestly, man, Mr. Volpe, Mr. Volpe, dead ass, like, I mean, he almost handed me a red pill as a fucking 11, 12-year-old or whatever. So I'm very grateful for that shit.
No, that's good thing you say though. So like, that is a shame though. you could have, it's the same with politics. So like you turn on one side, you got a doctor saying one thing, then you turn on the other thing, you're like the doctor saying the other, and then people are saying you should listen to the doctors. Well, which doctor do I fucking listen to?
Or even like they're like, oh, chocolate, having a little bit of chocolate is fine every day, and another guy's like, no, it's obesity. Having one glass of wine is fine. Like, no, that's alcoholism. It's just crazy.
Right.
Anyway, what I was going to say earlier is there's a series on CNN. It's called the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, 90s, 2000s. And in the 80s, they highlighted when there was 24-hour news cycles going on. And they said in the 80s that they were afraid to do that to pretty much what we have now, right? They're going to say, we're going to have to find time to fill. We need to fill this time, one. And we're also going to have panels. That's going to be full of I heard or she heard or sources say, which are not actual fiction, which is, that scares me. It's like sources say that Scott Gambino
Who's that? I don't know what you're talking about.
Rubs one out to John Bastow. But somebody, like, pretty much like that, somebody heard that, how that is news. And it's just, like, that is terrifying. But, like, they literally,
it's basically
if you watch that series, they highlight it. And
dude, that shit's ruined.
That, you know?
That's not just ruined politics, though. It's also ruined sports, even. Because, like, now sports is a 24-hour cycle. And a guy can't even hit a fucking buzzer beater without getting a fucking bunch of assholes the next day. Some of them who can't fucking cut it in the sport that they're covering, never made a varsity team in their life. Gotta be like, I've seen shots better than that. Oh, that's not the best home run I've seen. And bro, back in the days, we could actually appreciate an actual great accomplishment that was done in front of our eyes. It's like, yo, did you guys see this dude scored 20 points in the fourth quarter? And nowadays it's like, yeah, but he missed the free throw with 30 seconds left.
Nothing in
the early 90s, ESPN was great. All those guys was fucking awesome. It was just it was great.
Nothing annoys me more than some
opinion. It's too much content. Content, the best form of content now somehow has become opinions. So people care more about what someone thinks of the thing that they saw rather than the thing that they did, that they seen. Like, bro, to watch LeBron carry a bunch of janitors to the fucking finals, you're just like, this is gonna happen again? Is he really gonna do this shit again? He's gonna beat Boston with Jeff fucking Green. He's gonna beat these guys with fucking George Hill at Boston. Really? This is what's gonna happen? He's gonna drop 50 on the Warriors with Durant, Curry, Thompson, Green, all that on the fucking team with Durant, and he's got no one on his team, and J.R. Smith forgets the time, and people are like, yeah, but he missed that shot with a minute 20. He's no Jordan. Not to
get into sports, but I don't think any player in the history of the NBA could have brought that 2007 Cavs team to the finals other than LeBron. That's just me.
And listen, all of that is, whether you view it or not, he still was stacked with a deck that no one really was ever stacked with in all these different ways and shit. But, like, you can be anecdotal about anything. You could cherry pick anything. If you give me 5 minutes, I could convince you about a lot of shit, even if it sounds taboo. You know what I mean? You just give me 5 minutes, and if I can stick to a specific thing, I could be like, well, here's how vaccines are the worst thing for you. And then no one responds to that. Like, you know, maybe one person gets to respond and I get the last word. Boom, my conversation wins. But then I can do the same thing in the next conversation. You know what I mean? And it's almost like you guys are saying with the doctors, but it's ruined politics, it's ruined sports, it's ruined hip hop. No one cares about music.
It's ruined life, Nino. It's ruined life. I hate everything.
Down the internet.
Look at me. I look at I'm 33 and I look 53, Nino. I am ruined.
Nino, did you see The Last Dance?
No, I didn't see it, but I watched the reviews on it, which would call me a hypocrite.
So watching that, and also watching 61 when that came out, 2001?
Yes.
Mickey Mantle, like, the shit that he used to do, like, they depicted him. He was, like, banging different girls, drunk as hell. I think one scene, who knows if it's true, but one scene he crashed a car, drunk as hell. Like, that would have ruined his career. And I'm all for, like, leave these people alone. But Jordan, like, if you watch that series, he pretty much was like, I can't take it. I can't take these people. Like, he probably kept playing, but, like, he's like, I can't take the pressure. Like, they thought his dad, he killed his dad, right? they thought they were saying
to relieve the I read all about
like, think about that. Like, I'm sorry, like, I don't mean to bring it up. I just did the connection now, but your father passed away. Could you imagine if they said, oh, well, he went to Atlantic City after you made a song?
Yeah.
I think his death, like, how, like, that is so.
And here's the weirdest thing. We never stacked that on some of these young kids' favor. Like, we talk about, oh, they didn't have to grow up in the 80s when fucking crack was around, or, you know, they didn't grow around and when everyone was really tough and everybody this. Bro, you put fucking Russell Westbrook in the 80s, he averages 47 points a game, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hear this. No one can stop the guy in 1987. It's just not gonna happen. So it's like this idea that like these guys were tougher because they can hand check and fouls were called less and they were more competitive and they weren't this. The one thing, I didn't watch the Last Dance documentary, but my boy told me that Ainge and Jordan went golfing the day before he scored 60. Bro, when these guys hang out these days, all the old players are like, we never did that. We weren't talking to each other. Meanwhile, Jordan's golfing with the guy that's going to guard him the next day. It's like, could you imagine if that happened with LeBron? We never stacked. We always stack the deck. People pick and choose. They're fucking villains. And we always stack the deck against the new kids. And we're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But I've been reading about that since Phil Jackson's book and a bunch of other people's books that I read. I don't just read politics. But I remember reading a book one time that talks about the pressure getting to Jordan and that playing baseball was not really like a new venture or whatever for him. It was more like he needed to just get the fuck away and no one was going to look for him in fucking Toledo minor league system or whatever the fuck he was going wherever he was going to go. But people still did whatever. But it was just something to maintain that competitive edge, try something that was impossible, but to get the fuck away and, you know, do what he did. But dude, guys like LeBron and all that been dealing with this shit since they were 15, 16. Bro, LeBron got 2 jerseys as a 17-year-old. I mean, just talk about him. I can name other guys. The shit Iverson got, all these guys. But like, LeBron went and got 2 jerseys as a 17-year-old, and they suspended him. They were like, you can't take jerseys from stores. He's like, what? How many of us here would turn down free shit? Who here would tell?
I'd punch my wife for a free T-shirt. Are you kidding me?
Dude, if it's for free, it's for me.
And they were, and at that time, throwback jerseys were the shit. They were giving him like I don't know what job, maybe like Oscar Robertson or Elgin Baylor, whatever it was. But they gave him like legit throwback jerseys that were worth like $300. He's like, you just want to give these to me? Cool. And he got shitted on ESPN by grown men. 40-year-old, 50-year-old men in a suit were like, what a fucking he's gonna be a piece of shit. Fucking kid sucks. You know what I mean? And they're just like, Jordan wouldn't do that. And it's like, I gotta say,
LeBron must have the best PR team because nobody is perfect, especially in the limelight. Like, you don't think he's ever been anywhere. He's been with the same girl forever. You don't think he's ever been anywhere and slipped up once.
Probably he's been in the limelight so long he probably knows how to act though.
Yeah. But I mean, for pretty much the majority of his life, he hasn't gotten in trouble. He has not gotten in trouble.
Some people,
I mean, like some think he's that good.
Hey, you never know, man. Like, he could be one of those guys that's part of the fucking Bilderberg group that, you know, sacrifices some babies at the end of the month or whatever. Yeah, you know,
they're going to fucking the L's.
Yeah, on some Westworld shit, fucking all the AIs and raping them. And
he's got that single eye tat on his chest, and he's like, "I'm with y'all. Don't worry about it."
Yeah. Or you know, the guy could just be fucking, you know, like just a guy who wants to fucking build it. You know, One thing I will say about this, I don't know about Brady, but one thing with LeBron and Brady really shared to me that I look at is their commitment. That looks completely different than all these other guys because, like, they take care of themselves in a way that you don't normally see guys take care of themselves. Yeah. And they're equally obsessed over the game. You know what I mean? So, you know, who knows what the fuck's going on in that guy's head? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Brian, I know you wanted to get into some, like, weird shit. You want to ask Nino about aliens?
Let's go!
Did you see that video that came out a couple weeks ago?
I'm so happy.
Nah,
well, dude, they pretty much all but confirmed that they know about aliens with all the shit that they've been releasing.
Nice.
That ain't impressing me much. I've known about aliens since Ancient Aliens came out, 2009.
Oh God.
I was there with you too.
I know.
So Nino, Area 51, is it a hoax or no?
Nah, but they don't have fucking anything there. You think all these fucking years, all the bullshit that's gone on, you think that they have
It would
something?
have come out.
Oh, they have all that shit. What if they do have stuff? I mean, you get into like the whole stuff with like Bob Lazar and the people who come forward that have claimed they've worked on like alien spacecraft and they've seen recovered bodies and they've worked on. Forget there was an interview I watched a long time ago. It was one of the guys from Ancient Aliens. He does his own show, but he had a guy on who claimed that he was some sort of doctor who worked in this government facility, and he would operate on pretty much whatever they gave him. So they would bring in like tissue samples and stuff like that. And it started off the way he said it. He said they started off real small. They would bring him little tissue samples. They would tell him to analyze it and just find like irregularities and find things that were different from human beings, but they never told him what it was from. And then eventually, as he became kind of more coherent with the stuff that was going on there, and they were able to trust him more after a couple of years, they started bringing him like limbs of things. Like he claimed that he got this hand one time that had like, it was like a neon type of blue with like a cheetah print type thing on it. And they told him to analyze the hand and figure out where it was from. But he was like, this is nothing I've ever seen before. And I mean, of course, all that shit can be made up. People have imaginations. But I guess sometimes, I don't know, you see someone with such conviction with what they're speaking about, and maybe he's just a good actor. I don't know. But it just seemed very real to him.
This is the problem with this subject. You're relying on people.
Yeah.
Like it's like when a cop comes to the hood and he's trying to figure out what happened. So like somebody's like trying to figure, when you're relying on people, you ever watch the first 48? Like they never solved it. Yeah, it's always solved through confession or like he say she said bullshit. But it's like even when the person confesses, I'm never fully convinced. Like as long as there's some crazy evidence against them. But sometimes I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, just because 5 people said this and they saw you, they this, they that. And it's like, with this shit, I don't know. You guys might want to Google this. I think it's the Fermi paradox. I just want to present y'all with an idea. Enrique Fermi is his name. He was a physicist in the 70s. He came up with something, whatever his last name is. One of y'all can correct me. I think it's the Fermi paradox. And he came up with an idea that it's if you just judge it by Earth, technological advanced cultures kill themselves. So every culture that's technologically advanced finds a way to fucking self-destroy. Now, the actual wisdom and intellect that other groups that don't advance technologically, we look down on that shit. Because see, we're all on Zoom right now. We're all like, what the fuck do they know? They don't fucking get it. Yada, yada, yada. Yeah, but they don't know. They don't have a word
spreading COVID across the fucking world.
For sure. They don't have a word for arthritis. They don't have a word for insomnia. They don't have words for depression. Some of these indigenous tribes to this day, and I don't mean to take it to like one of these hippie conversations and shit, but I'm just saying we look down on those societies because they didn't technologically advance, but yet their wisdom surpassed their technological, essentially accomplishments, right? So what this paradox he was describing was our wisdom still hasn't caught up to our technological advancement. Like if you look at a lot of the things, we pretty much figured out how to maintain an infinite amount of energy source. Dino, get in here. Dino, come on.
Is that your son or your dog?
Get in there, sit down. That's
the dog.
Okay.
So we pretty much figured out how to use all this shit as an energy source. We know what to do with the ocean. We figured out how to maintain population. We know how to maintain all this extra shit. But yet our wisdom hasn't caught up to our technological capabilities, right? We still don't know how to take care of each other. We still haven't figured out common sense fucking bullshit.
We still deal with racism. We still deal with racism.
Basic shit. Basic shit. Like we are still sad. We're still depressed. Like all this shit, and all of us are isolated. We don't have a sense of community. Like we've all let go of a lot of stuff. Everybody kind of feels a void. We could everyone here could describe a depressing time in their life, along with their parents' time. And it's like, these are supposed to be the best times of our lives. Like, come on, you get to do all the things you want. But it's like there's a lot of lack of fulfillment here in these great times of life. And you can make all these arguments and so on and so forth. But one of those things in that paradox is he describes that any technologically advanced group of people won't make it out of their self-destruct because it's impossible to technologically advance. It's impossible to technologically advance without eventually blowing yourself up. And I thought it was a pretty good concept. I'm not.
No. I agree with you, but look at us. I mean, we're at the point where we're developing.
Did I lose you?
No, you're good.
Nah.
You hear us?
Did you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Oh, now I hear you. Okay,
Yeah,
I hear you now.
You're good.
But
what I was saying though, I agree with you on that concept, but I mean, you could look at like where we're at now, where we're kind of on the verge, and arguably they probably already have it somewhere, but we're on the verge of artificial intelligence. You know, so at what point do we get to that point? Like we're progressing towards that, where we're going to now build this machine that's fully aware of itself. If they don't have something like that already,
Bro,
so now
We don't need to get to that point.
You just asked at what point we get to that point. We literally just went through something in the last 2 months where no one could fucking go anywhere. No one could do anything. Yeah. Right. And whatever you want to say about it, it seemed borderline threatening, essentially. You know what I mean? So it affected everybody's daily life, right? Fucking virus. Yeah. So you can make a case that science also affected all of us as well, because if you just want to just let the natural thing just happen, a bunch of fucking old people mainly die, bunch of sick people mainly die, all of us become hyperimmune to it, right? This is what the science says. We're all good. But because of because of our essential, like, these organisms that we built that end up controlling us, it eventually just paralyzed us, where we were like, no, we have to flatten the curve. Now it's like, wait for a vaccine. And then now it's, and yet we it's hard to stabilize this now. With like, everyone's going to adjust. We don't even know how this is going to affect us. But we're at the point of like, in a weird little shaky time now where it's like, I don't think, I'm not a dispensationalist. Like, I don't think the world's going to fucking end in the next 10 years or 5, I don't think this is going to end everything. But I do think it's a good, I'm not against alien talk. I'm not against all of that. The hard part for me to accept is that a lot of this shit is you're depending on a lot of other people's accounts and conversations.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, and of course, and people's memories over time, it's been observed that, people, like, when you have something happen in your life, as the further you get away from it, the more it changes and the more things you add and the things you lose. So trying to get an accurate memory from someone, oh, this happened, 15 years ago. Well, how much really do you remember that, and how much?
That's one thing. That's one thing, but I'll give you another one. So I forgot who said this, but it's like, if I went into all of your houses tonight, right? And I said, listen, I got abducted by aliens. And because of that, I have the ability to move everything here with my mind. I developed a form of telekinesis, and I can move all this shit with my mind. If I start actually exercising that and moving everything around your house with my mind, that doesn't mean I was abducted by aliens. Like, I presented that truth to you. Right. And no, he was fucking abducted, yo. He's moving all the shit. Nino wasn't lying, right? But that doesn't mean one and one doesn't mean that. Like, I planted that seed for you guys to do that. My thing is, but the Bob Lazar count. I present to you an alternative theory that I read, I heard somebody say. Mm-hmm. What allows us to think that whatever nuclear reactor he worked on, why do we think it was alien? What if it was discovered and fucking? What if it was something from a civilization that was around before us? And this thing has already been happening numerous amount of times, which is some shit that, dude, we're still fucking learning. Like, we thought the evolutionary chart, that shit, I don't know how much you guys know about Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah.
But that shit's been crushed since Göbekli. Yeah. That shit's been crushed since Göbekli Tepe, because apparently we were all like 12,000 years ago. We couldn't really communicate. We were just these hunter-gathering idiots who weren't technologically advanced. Yet they discovered Göbekli Tepe and modern-day Turkey 12,000 years ago. Now academia is catching up to it, but a German guy discovered it. And now they found out, these guys found all the shit with the stars, the planets. So 12,000 years ago, our primitive selves that we thought, they weren't as dumb as we thought. They actually had a little bit of science info, a little bit of math info. They were astronomically, well-versed. They knew a couple of things. So it's like,
how about we don't really know what the fuck's even going on here? And
we don't know anything. Every single thing on this planet is theory. Everything.
Right. And 70% of land is buried underwater, like the world that's ever existed. So, like the marine archaeology, we're still learning shit like Göbekli Tepe. Like they discovered that in the 90s, and they were like, "This was 12,000 years ago." They're gonna discover something from 20,000 years ago. They're gonna discover shit from 26,000 years ago.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: when marine archaeology starts to evolve, that's the big thing for me. It's like, what else do they find? But the Lazar story is he's fully believing, like. I watched the interview, might have been on Rogan, where he's like, it didn't come from us. This isn't our thing. It's like, well, bro, how do you know that? How do you know this isn't an Earth thing, but just not our thing? Does that make any sense?
It's not our time. I get what you're saying.
Different civilization, yeah.
Well, no. Not even that it's another civilization. What, like, I'm going to pose this. This is just an idea that I thought about. I'll pose this to all you guys. What if the planet is in like a constant cycle? Like the primates that are here now.
Always.
You know.
Are you doing the Planet of the Apes thing?
No, it's not. It's not really Planet of the Apes. It's just that we get to a point where we develop the artificial intelligence, which essentially eliminates us, right? And then it gets to the point where not that, okay, machines are taking over the planet. Maybe the artificial intelligence is so in tune with what's going on the earth that it realizes there needs to be no intelligent, like highly intelligent life.
And we're all backed up
and then it eliminates itself. And then everything is just starting to cycle. So like we look at the primates now, we're like, oh my God, look at that. They're starting to use tools. Maybe that's just the future generations of people that we're looking at, and it's just always like recycling.
Look, everybody who thinks you're crazy, like who's watching this right now, all they got to do is look at how glued we are to technology. Like we are already, like singularity's already there. Like nobody here can deal without their phone for a day. Like we'd all fucking go crazy. You know, like as soon as my phone's not around me, I'm like, you know, grab. So we are, our virtual selves are already somewhat to some people more meaningful than their regular selves. Some people check their Instagram before they swallow water. Some people check their Instagram before they eat. Some people,
when they get up in the morning, as soon as they open their eyes.
Yeah, and they forget to eat. So it's like, so us merging with this, you know, form of intelligence or becoming one with it, that it's not even just that it's inevitable, it's already here. But I like that concept. But that's why I just presented an alternative view, because I don't want to just, I think sometimes we tend to obsess over everything just being alien, like, oh, it's out here. Yeah. And we not think like, bro, like, what makes us think that a lot of this shit isn't already here, and that this billions of fucking years of information here and data that still hasn't been processed? Again, the oldest form of human technology was discovered in the 90s, and it was 12,000 years old. Just in the 90s. Archaeology, marine biologists and meteorologists, they just started working together in the last 140, 50 years. Who's to say in the other 200 years we don't find out things about ourselves that nuclear reactor is like, yo, Lazar, that shit was something from a civilization who was in Antarctica millions of years ago, who was already about to, who got to a certain technological space that we never even got to. You know what I mean? And that shit already was developed here. So that's just another concept I like.
I love this concept. I love this concept because, like, I'm not into it at all, and just hearing you guys go back and forth, it's like so much knowledge in my brain. I'm still trying to figure out how to spell Göbekli Tepe to Google. Honestly, I really am. Is that a G or a J? For real?
It's with a G.
I wrote a J. Fuck. All right. No, but seriously, this is like phenomenal. I love this.
Scott, you gotta open your mind, bro.
Don't tell me how to live my life.
Take acid and watch Ancient Aliens.
Yeah, Scott, you gotta listen to Jordan Peterson.
Who's that? No, I'm not listening to anyone. I'm not listening to anyone except Göbekli Tepe at this point.
Göbekli Tepe is not a person.
No, that's the greatest name of all time. I'm going to start going by that when I go to the supermarket. Who's shopping here? It's Göbekli Tepe. Why don't you address me to your fucking frozen food dinners? That's
Jesse Smollett. I like Jesse Smollett.
Yeah. Nino, man, we could go on for hours with this shit. And
I have a few questions for Neil.
Go on, because I want to get. I feel bad for you because you're the first person we had on, and we didn't do the gun to the head segment. So I did write down questions for you. I've been doing with everybody afterwards, and I want to get you on this, and we could hang out afterwards and just bullshit
segment.
No.
All right, I've got a few gun to your head questions. Would you rather have more time in your life or more money?
More time.
For a week, would you rather have no internet or Wi-Fi or no phone? And the phone doesn't have Wi-Fi.
That's a good one.
Well, you ran out of fucking internet tonight, so I mean, you could probably live without it.
No internet Wi-Fi.
No internet. Okay. Would you rather be a ninja or a pirate?
A fucking ninja. Whoever says pirate, fuck them, bro.
This is why I love. See, this is why I love Nino.
I'll tell him.
There's some people we click with, and you just have our sense of humor. This is why we click, man.
Yeah.
Go.
Fuck a pirate, bro.
All right. Okay. Would you rather have no elbows or no knees?
Think how bad no knees would be.
Oh my god, fuck, man. Can I have my hands if I have no elbows?
You got everything.
That'd be so weird.
You can't bend them. So you'd be walking like straight armed or straight legged.
Yo, you know what? Take my fucking knees, bro.
Take your knees. All right. My last one. Would you rather always hear Nickelback music or have to swim everywhere you ever go?
Wow. Wow. Eric, that's a great one.
Robin and her boyfriend Tom texted me those. I reached out for a few.
That's a great
swim, bro, and I can't even fucking swim. I would rather swim.
So you'd rather die than listen to Nickelback?
Chad Kroger.
You'd rather drown in the ocean or a lake or any body of water than hear Nickelback music.
I'd rather die in a fucking tub.
Jesus Christ.
Is there anything? Oh, is it Nickelback over anything?
I'd rather just. I would chew glass gladly. With a smile on my face, swallow
Chew glass
while swimming.
While swimming, yeah. Actually, that's a perfect.
All right,
Nino, you ready for these? You ready for this? Sheryl Crow or Shania Twain?
Oh my God, Shania Twain.
Very well done. If you would have said Sheryl Crow, I'd have deleted your number at my phone. I hate Sheryl Crow. I'm sorry. Matches or lighters?
I don't use either.
Oh, good for you. Would you rather hear a sermon? Would you rather hear a sermon from Mace or get maced?
Oh, a sermon from Mace. I love Mace. Fuck you.
All right. Eminem show or Get Rich or Die Trying?
Oh, Get Rich or Die Trying.
God, see, the Eminem show is my favorite album, but whatever. Favorite Ninja Turtle?
You also don't read.
I do read. I read what I want to read. I read what I want to read.
Ask Scott, what's your favorite letter? He doesn't know.
It's C. What are you talking about?
He says Jello.
Yeah. Chris Rock. Favorite Ninja Turtle?
Raphael.
Jeez, really? Not Leonardo? Whatever. Hopscotch.
Fuck you.
I don't like Raphael. He was an asshole. Hopscotch or Hopsin?
Hopscotch.
Wow. Ooh, wow. Clueless or Mean Girls?
Oh,
that's a tough one, bro.
That's a real tough one. This could define our friendship, man.
This could define ours, bro.
I'm gonna tell you. If I'm gonna go nostalgia, I'm going Clueless. But if I'm gonna go for quality, for like something to watch a bunch of times in a row, it's Mean Girls.
As if. Oh my God.
I'm like totally bugging.
Oh, listen, I'm gonna tell you. You're not so fetch. You're not so fetch.
Yeah.
All right. B.O.B. or B.Y.O.B.? I steal these. I gotta give Brian credit. He's the one who like thought of these like.
These are fucking really good. I like B.O.B.
Okay. Another one that could define our friendship: Peter Griffin or Homer Simpson?
Oh, fucking Homer! Get out of here.
Thank you. This is why I like you, man.
Fuck that.
Would you rather be vegan or have no front teeth?
I'd rather have no front teeth.
That's such an extreme thing. All right. Fishing or kayaking?
Neither, but kayaking.
All right. Do you call it a remote or a clicker?
Oh,
Who the fuck calls it a clicker?
Thank you. I'm with you on that one. Skip Bayless or Skip to my Lou?
Skip to my Lou without a doubt.
Would you rather hear Ray for Austin, baby? Would you rather hear me rant for 30 minutes or just get punched in the face?
I would get punched in the face by everybody here except for you. 50 times then hear you rant again.
Hey. Oh, like that's good.
And Brian's kind of brolic. He looks like he could knock my front teeth out and have a bunch of this shit.
He might make you go vegan.
Did you make Brian and Erica?
Brolic, you're all right too. You look like you knocked somebody out too.
Yeah, not
I
me.
got the shots, Nino.
I got a body like pudding.
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers or Tony Romo?
Tony Romo.
Yes!
Yeah.
We're 4-1 on that.
Look,
I've had
They're
so
both
many
losers.
Nino, the pudding posse got your back. Get him, Scott.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Nino, thanks for coming on, man. We're gonna hang out.
Hold on. I got
go on,
more.
bro.
We got one more. Nino, would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses, or would you rather fight one horse-sized duck?
A horse-sized duck.
Oh, you're the only person to pick that.
Yeah.
That's because he's different.
Yeah, I like challenges, man.
Hey, ducks have corkscrew penises.
What?
I don't know, fucking horse-sized duck.
Yeah, better. Nino, what are you up to?
Just a horse-sized duck, just like it made me. I tapped into my inner Maximus when you said that. I was like, I can handle that. Yo, I got that. You know?
But you would just look at it and be like, holy shit, that's a big fucking duck.
Oh, for sure. But I don't want to fight 100 of anything.
No. Nino, promote yourself, man. Just, with the 30 viewers I have, but
Don't
whatever.
ever fucking go on my social media. I don't post anything important. My name's NINOBLESS, and I don't know anything. Don't pay attention to anything I said. Fact check everything I said. I made up 95% of it.
You know what? And we believe it all. So
I was gonna say that should be on your tombstone. That